For more on this story, we can go across to our international affairs editor, Armen Georgian. Armen, why has the migrant crisis at the southern U.S. border become so acute in recent months?
Well, it's obviously a political hot potato in America, and if you asked a Republican, the answer to that question would be because the Biden administration has removed some of the controls that were in place over the previous 4 years, particularly things like the protocols that kept would-be asylum seekers in Mexico while their claims were being processed, rather than have those claims being processed in the United States. But there's obviously deeper factors at play here, Delano. We've seen over the last 10 years an explosion in organized crime in the central, in the three so-called Northern Triangle states of Central America. That's to say, El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. We've seen a huge increase in drug trafficking, human trafficking, all that, of course, fueling gang activity, and the impact on ordinary people has been absolutely horrific. And if you look at what NGOs and various organizations have been saying about the level of violence, that really has emerged as the key motivation for people to leave their homes, to head north from those three Central American states through Mexico and onto the U.S. if they can get in, because simply they've been exposed to too much violence. So even though technically they're not in a conflict in a way that, say, Syria is a conflict, it is something akin to a war zone, according to organizations such as Doctors Without Borders. So that is really fueling a lot of these migrants' desire to try and reach the U.S.
So, Armen, what is the U.S.'s plan here? How does it plan on, tackling the root causes of migration and keeping asylum seekers where they are, essentially?
Well, the U.S. has said that it will spend $4 billion over the next 4 years on those Northern Triangle states. So again, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. But the problem that the U.S. has is that it doesn't have very good relations politically with the Northern Triangle states. And if you go outside the Northern Triangle, for example, to Nicaragua, that's been a very strained relationship as well, regardless of whether a Democratic or Republican administration is in the White House. It's just historically a very troubled relationship. And right now, within the Northern Triangle, relations between El Salvador and the U.S. are particularly strained. So because of all of this, the U.S. says that it will essentially try to bypass the central governments when investing in those countries, when disbursing these $4 billion. And it's going to work with NGOs, with various associations and local players, essentially try to not go through the central government. But of course, as we know, any kind of aid like that does have to involve government authorities at certain points, because you can't do certain things without permission from government officials as part of the projects that you're trying to put in place on the ground. So it remains to be seen how effective that strategy is actually going to be, and whether these $4 billion can be a game changer or not, and also whether the private sector can be a game changer. That's one thing that Vice President Kamala Harris has been talking about, the need for public-private partnerships in order to improve development and ultimately security in Central America, because it's insecurity, as I said, that is causing a lot of this mass migration northwards. But as we know from other parts of the world, Delano, if you look at Europe, for example, they've been talking about trying to have a root causes strategy for many years, but that doesn't prevent flare-ups like the one that we just saw in Ceuta and Melilla between Morocco and Spain. So obviously you can have a root causes strategy, but you're also going to have to deal with sudden crises suddenly flaring up at the U.S. border in the future.
We'll see what happens, Armen. Thank you very much for that, Armen Georgian there.